Let's give you one last tool in your toolkit here for testing, and that is how can we test sort of remote servers. We've written this JSON API server, or this web server, and it would be neat if our node unit tests could test that without having to sort of include parts of that test in the sort of testing code. It would be cool if our tests could like call a remote server, get the results, and then check out those results sort of on their own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to lesson 9 with the version of the photo album sharing server we wrote, and I'm going to start that up. Now you remember here I should be able to go curl-x get localhost 8080 v1 albums.json, and you should see for a freshly initialized system I actually don't have any albums. So how can I test this, and how are some things, what are some ways I can do to sort of make sure that I'm getting the right results back? We're going to do this by adding a new module here into our tests, and this is the request module that you see here. And the request module is really cool, and it just lets us actually make a request to a remote server and get the contents, and then it calls a callback with an error if there was one, a response object, and then the sort of body of the response object. Now the cool thing is I can actually just say get the result instead, or I can say post the result for those cases, and I can do put and delete, and I can send data, receive data. It's very powerful and lets me do all sorts of things. So let's go ahead and write a simple test using this request module for our JSON server. So we'll call this API test.js. So I need to say var, what did we call it there? It is request. Equals require request, and in order to get that I need to add it to my package JSON. So I need to say request, and that is currently on version 2.x or so it looks like. So we'll go back to our API test file, and then I can start writing some tests. So let's say var h equals localhost 8080, like that, so I don't have to type that in all the time. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say exports.test1 equals function test. Okay, so what I'm going to say is I'm going to say test.expect. We'll expect some number, I'll figure it out in a second, but let us first say request.get h plus and then v1 albums.json, like that. Now it's going to give us an error, a response, and a body like that. Okay, so we'll figure out in a minute exactly how many things we're going to expect. We always want to have a test.done. So let's first test that error equals null, because we definitely don't want to see any errors. Let's make sure, let me also make sure that it's equals, okay, not equal. We'll also say that resp.status code was 200. We want to make sure that that worked fine. I'm going to say var b equals json.parse body, because that, as you recall here, will return some JSON to us. So I'm going to parse that body and put it in B. Now I'm going to say test.equals b.error, because that will also have its own error from the server side. I want to make sure that that equals null. And I also want to make sure that the data and the albums are there. So I want to say test.not equals b.data.albums. I want to make sure that that's not null or undefined. Let's say that. Let's make sure it's definitely there. And then I'll finally say test.equals b.data.albums.length 0, because it should be an empty array. So I've written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I should be expecting 5 things to happen here. And then we have the test.done. And so that's really all there is to using this request module. I just say get the contents of it. It goes ahead and kind of much like curl, does the request and everything like that. This error here is not to be confused with the error that our JSON server would return if there was some sort of problem on the server end. This error here is going to be I can't talk to the server, or there was some problem with the request or the actual communication with it. And then this response object is actually a response object that the request module puts together, not the sort of internal Node HTTP module. So make sure to keep those separate. And then the body again will just be the actual content of the HTTP response. So with that saved, hopefully we typed all that in correctly. We have our server running here still. So I should be able to now run my node unit with API test. And oh no, I forgot to npm update. Let's actually get that new module down. Okay, getting all of our dependencies, unpacking everything, and let's run that again. And we have its no method called not equals. So how about not equal? Like that. And there you go. You'll see it works just fine now and everything. So that's the basics of working with APIs and everything. You can actually use posts, you can put, and you can do deletes and everything. And you can get all kinds of crazy with this stuff. But the good news is you can fully test your your JSON API servers using Node Unit and this request module, and it's super convenient, and I absolutely do it now for all the stuff I'm working on. As I'm writing stuff, I totally write tests as I'm writing the code, so it's definitely a habit you should get into as well.